Hey guys, how are you? And girls, how are you? Good, 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 good. Quick video about the Jet preseason finale and a couple thoughts going in afterwards. And a lot has to do with we're going to try to stick with with Saleh's press conference afterwards because I thought it was extremely revealing. He definitely let out a couple nuggets during that press conference that were not to be ignored. Not to be ignored. Let me just bring this up real quick. What's the first note there? Um, a guy that does videos and is a buddy of mine now, Bill, once told me, he goes, Jay, you're going to get in a habit if you have some free time, and he knows sometimes I have some free time, of knowing that you've got several videos to put together. And if one really can't go out for a day or two, you'll do your video because, nothing's going to change really. And you'll have it and you'll just have it sitting there and then you'll put it out and something could change. And the bottom line is the video I did for the pregame, I did Wednesday night, which I should not have done. And totally forgot about it. Woke up Thursday, didn't check anything. Had a crazy day yesterday, which I knew I was going to have. Long story short, I put it up around 4:30. I'm out getting something to eat. Check my phone real quick. I'm like, what? Run real quick home and pull the video. It wasn't up long. I think it may have gotten one or two views. It wasn't up long at all. So the bottom line is it had Zach Wilson. Zach's going to play exactly what Saleh said on Wednesday. Zach's going to play the first half. Zach's going to play no more than the first half, but into the second quarter. The whole thing. But the bottom line is something changed. And Saleh told us why it changed. And the reasoning he gave was the Eagles have a veteran team. And, you got to know who you're going up against. And they're not going to play any of their starters. And I think he just decided, he said, you want to know something? It's going to pour. We're seeing the weather. We've gotten this far. Zach's okay. The offensive line pretty much is okay. Tucker's not playing, the whole thing. And he just said, forget this. I'm not doing this. And he fell into what a lot of the other coaches who, some of them I've disagreed with because they haven't played anybody, but decided not to play. Anyway, I pulled it. I had to pull it. So I'm sorry. I know some of you may have come on looking for a pregame one, and at 7:05, I was not going to do a second one. So, but we're going to do a real good one now. Which leads us to the press conference, which I thought was extremely revealing. First thing he comes out with. Now, he doesn't tell us who, but the first question he's asked if the Moss Fant thing has played itself out, and he said, yes. Yes, it has. Something, he said, I've watched what I had to watch tonight, and yes, tonight a conclusion has been made. Of course, he wouldn't give us the answer, and of course, I don't truly believe it was just tonight, but that's what he said. So the bottom line is his decision on exactly what he's going to do with Moss and Fant is over, and that's that. Then he gave another revealing answer. This one here just opened a can of worms. He was asked about Guidry and Michael Carter and how they played. And they played pretty good, in the nickel, He goes on to compliment both of them. He's asked that, and then he was asked an interesting question. He was asked, does that have any effect on the rest of the secondary that struggled a little bit? He not only answers yes, he looks at the reporter, he goes, yes, good question, and turns. And I was like, whoa, bless Austin. Whoa, Bryce Hall. Did you hear that? Can of worms, baby. I mean, he just opened it up. And if I'm the secondary out there, now whether he did that for effect, because he knows these guys probably either watch this, they get wind of this, whatever. I mean, if I was Bless Austin's buddy, I'd call him, hey, Bless, man, did you happen to watch that press conference after the game? No, I haven't. I think you may want to watch it, man. And whether he's looking to get some, listen, there could be a comfort level with these guys were sort of handed their positions early. I mean, early, really early. And maybe there's been, not intentional. Sometimes complacency isn't intentional. Sometimes you just need a kick in the ass. So for whatever reason, he said yes. So in other words, yeah, Michael Carter and Guidry are nickel slot defensive backs. But yeah, that's not, they've played cornerback, of course. And they played really well. And they did. They played, there was a couple little instances last night, but they did make some really good plays last night. So, something to keep an eye on, right? I talked about rewarding the ball early. Liked the way Josh Johnson played a lot. Also raved about Morgan's toughness and how he played in the second half. Of course, we're still looking at, Wilson, Josh Johnson, and I know it's right now White and Morgan, but something tells me they really like Morgan. You've heard him talk about him several times, and you don't see anybody talk about a fourth string quarterback as much as he's raved about his work ethic, which he thinks is even too much. I mean, several times Saleh has said it's over the top. We've had to tell him several times, this is a fun game, and sometimes you can be too much. Because what happens with Morgan, they say, is that practice will end, and he'll go back out there for a couple hours. So they must love something about him. And you know what? You watch him last night, and you could see what Douglas and what some people have seen in this kid. He's a big stand-up quarterback in the pocket, man. Throws a hard ball, was really accurate sometimes. He just looked like a real little bit throwback quarterback back there, So one way or another, I think, he'll stick somehow. We're practice squad, so we'll see what happens with that. Okay, also you begin to get CD reality. What am I talking about here? Beginning reality? A little bit. Young guys in the secondary, correct. At some point, and you started to see it, is the Jets went into this season you're never okay with a secondary that you're not completely pleased with. Excuse me, guys. But at some point, the Jets were going to live with it. They were going to live with it because they had a defensive line that they were positive. And you can understand why. Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams, they were positive, Vinny Curry, Rankins. They were going to get pressure on the quarterback. And that's fallen apart. It's over. It's just not going to happen. In fact, any real pressure that they're going to get on the quarterback is going to be from a surprise player or so. And right now, I'm not high going into right now on Bryce Huff. It was a great first game, and then the second and third games completely disappeared. But anyway, the secondary's play has been completely exposed by the lack of pass rush. And we've seen it the second and third game. I mean, you want to talk about apples and oranges. Forget about how bad the run defense has even been. That's been horrible. But we're beginning to see the problem when you have a secondary that is, that young. Because any way you look at it, it's young. It's okay to put you have four guys back there, and that's young, and that's young. You can get away with that. But when you got young, and then we haven't seen Joyner much lately, in May, so it's being exposed. And there's a little bit of a concern right there, Then I put a little note in here, which he was not asked about. I wanted to make sure I mentioned. Yeboah looked great last. Forget about the Hail Mary the catch on the Hail Mary. He looks really good. He looks really good. And if for some reason, let's say, I'm sure he'll be kept on the practice squad and everything, so that'll cover it up, or on the roster. I don't know, but probably. Anyway, I really quickly looked at somebody's post roster cut what the Jets wound up with, and I saw, and I'm a gigantic Herndon fan, and I saw Herndon's name on there, and I'm like, man, have you ever seen a guy live off a rookie season the way this guy has? There is nothing else on the resume. Nothing. In fact, there's so much more negative on the resume since. I've never seen a football player survive that long off of a brief mini explosion with Sam Darnold that he had his rookie year. And it was so good, apparently, that even going into last season, do you remember the nonsense we would hear from Gase? unicorn. Oh my God, there's so many things. There's so many things we can do with him. So many things. He can bartend, cook. You heard Gase just go off about how great this guy is. And, the season came, and you talk about invisible. No, he wasn't invisible. We saw him drop, 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 drop. It was just unbelievable. And then finally, at some point at week 10, whatever he was going through, I really think there was some kind of fear in there. Fear of, he had that bad hit, and whatever had happened, it broke. And at the end of last year, in weeks 12, 13, 14, he had a couple touchdown catches, I think, but he started catching the ball. No more drops, and there was something there, and you thought maybe something was lit again. But here we are this year, and there's nothing to show for it. Okay, we're staying with the Jets. Again, we're concerned about secondary. Oh, yeah, good point. I'm telling myself, good point. If there wasn't so much concern about the secondary, he was asked, he wasn't asked that. That's my thinking. He was asked, you weren't playing the starters, but boy, oh boy, starters played on defense. And when you think about it, they did. They did. You saw Bless Austin. You saw Bryce Hall. You saw Huff. You saw Nazir, which I'm going to shorten it for. I like the way he does it. You saw Sherwood. I mean, you saw starters out there. Young kids, and that's what he said. Hey, they're young kids. We're trying to get them extra time. But there is some concerns out there. And as far as Sherwood, and then he talked about Sherwood real quick with the tackling, I'm more concerned. He was more concerned with the missed tackles. That the rope-a-dope play was unbelievable with the you guys saw it, tackles and rolls on the ground with the guy, but not really because the guy never hit the ground while he was rolling like that, and just sort of released him. Guy got up, ran 10 more yards down the field. And he even said, that's not going to happen. We told him, don't release. But there was the rest of the game of Sherwood's game. There was a lot of missed tackles. Missed tackle on the first touchdown run down the right side. Guy juked him. I mean, he played it so poorly, He didn't look good. And what concerned me is when you watched the pre-snap, that they just looked so uptight. I mean, Sherwood was bouncing him around the line like he just had 5 cups of coffee. And then I started watching, and it sort of hit me. The big problem they had last night, and you've seen it several times because Mosley's not playing that much, is that that's not going to be the case when Mosley's out there. When Mosley's out there, you see those guys, they're calm, they're under control, they're in their right spots. He talks to them, everything's cool. They must have an incredible confidence in him, and they have every right to. So I think once Mosley's out there, you're going to let those guys just be football players, and you'll see, much better things. What worries me is, God forbid, if something were to happen to Mosley, you think when he went down 2 years ago, the Jet defense fell apart? That would be like a non-issue compared to what would happen this time. Take into account the defensive line injuries. Mosley is by far the most important player on that field 10 times over. And that's all it would take, man. That's all it would take. So you got to be concerned about that. He talked about Josh Adams, how they've been drilling into him, north-south. And he is a north-south runner. I think they meant more, he's a stand-up running back. You know what I mean? When he runs, he doesn't get down low much, and they really want him to put his head down, get your head down more, put your head down into the line, when you're running. And you saw a lot of that, yesterday, and you definitely saw it on the 2-point conversion, right? I mean, you're talking about they gave the ball to him intentionally for that. I think that was more important to them for them to see that from him after spending 6 weeks drilling that into his head, than winning the game, tying the game. So that was really, really good. In my videos down there, you'll see I did a breakdown of the running backs before the season started. And I gave you Devin Coleman, Michael Carter, Devin Coleman, back and forth, whoever's running the best. Ty Johnson, Josh Adams, and I always thought P. Ryan would be the guy outside looking in, but would always kept me thinking that's a possibility that's not going to happen, is that was one of Joe Douglas's draft picks the year before, and not a 7th rounder, you know? So I always thought there was a possibility that would be the case. And as we get to this point here, I just wonder. I wonder how that's going to play out. That would be an injustice, if you ask me. That would be a little bit of an injustice, if you ask me. If Perine makes the roster and Josh Adams doesn't, or would they go with 5? I don't know. I don't know. That would be an injustice. So anyway, we'll see how that plays out. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I got another video I want to make, so keep an eye on it. And all you'll see is Hail Mary. And that's the only thing I'm going to say about that. There are parts about that. You know what? I'm not going to even give it away. That's it, guys. Have a great day. I appreciate you being here. And keep an eye out. There'll be a couple more videos coming up. As next week goes along, we'll start to really break things down. We'll wait for the roster cuts. In fact, I may do a one before the roster cuts. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Okay, guys, have a great day. Thanks for stopping in.